So hello, today I wanted to talk about some books that have spring/summer vibes to me personally. I wanted to go with just spring, but then I realized pretty much all of them also have summer vibes, so I'm mashing those two together. So this probably will be a very quick video because I don't have much time today to record. And tomorrow actually I'm starting a new job, so I'm very stressed out and I have some things I have to prepare before tomorrow. So when you're seeing it, I should be at work during my first or second day. I hope things are going well. Anya from the future. If your first day didn't go well, there's always tomorrow. Okay, so to me spring is more about the tone of the book, so like books about like changes in someone's life, like a coming of age story. It's about the lightness of tone, like there might be some dramatic events happening in the book, but you know things will work out in the end, like a very feel-good book. And summer, I feel like that's more straightforward to me, is about hot weather and traveling. So at first I had a shorter list because I felt like books with like more serious tone didn't really fit into this list, but I ended up adding them. So those books are more like books that are set during the summer, so it's more about the environment, but the tone might be a little bit more serious. So let's start with a little bit more of a lighter tone first. So we have a classic, A Room with a View by Forster. It's definitely a spring/summer book. It is set mostly, or like at least half of this book is set in Italy and the latter half is set in England, but it is set, if I remember correctly, during the warmer months. It's about a young girl called Lucy Honeychurch, which is such a cute name, who is this like naive young woman who is on holiday in Italy with her older cousin Charlotte. And it starts off with those two being at the pension, like a hotel, and they're at the table like discussing loudly that they didn't get a room with a view like they were promised. I mean, it's mostly the cousin like complaining loudly and Lucy being like, oh my god, please stop, people are looking at us. And this older gentleman, Mr. Emerson, is like, hey, we have a room with a view. He's there with his son. We have a room with a view. Would you like to switch? And this book is definitely a coming of age story. It's about changing social norms, and Mr. Emerson and his son definitely represent this kind of the new approach of the 20th century as opposed to this like older approach of like Victorian 19th century social norms. I really love this book. I gave it 5 stars. But aside from this book, there's also a few other books by Forster that also could be considered, what is it called, a comedy of manners. So there's A Passage to India, which is set in India, and also Where Angels Fear to Tread, which is set yet again in Italy. And my second recommendation would be overall Jane Austen books. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like to me Jane Austen books are like a comfort read to me because I know like everything will be fine in the end. But when it comes to like books that have the most spring/summer vibes, I would say go with Pride and Prejudice or Emma. I'm not quite sure about Emma. I just remember there's a scene where there's a picnic, so in my brain I'm just like, that's summer. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Pride and Prejudice. Most of people read it already, so just throwing out there. I have other things there than classics, but let's start with classics. So next on the list is I Captured the Castle, and the cover is really pretty. This book is about 17-year-old Cassandra who writes this journal notebook, and you're reading it, and she lives in this castle, but it's like falling apart because her family is at this point very poor. It is another coming of age story about this young girl, and it is kind of a season of change in her life. And you can see the book starts in March and it goes through April and May, and the last part is set from June to October. So most of this book is set during spring/summer months. And yeah, I didn't love this book, but I know a lot of people did. Next we have one modern classic, and it is A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. And I actually picked this book up because I heard it's very well written, and the writing style was called poetic, and sometimes that works for me, but a lot of the time when the writing style of a book is called poetic, it's for me is like overwritten. Not with this one. It's very nicely written. It's about this veteran of the Great War, the First World War. He goes to this village to clean slash restore slash uncover this very old painting that's like very dirty. And he lives in the church where the painting is. And it's set in July slash August, I don't remember exactly. And this book is very short, it's like 100 pages, and it really is about just this man trying to uncover this painting and just, meeting the villagers, talking to them. It's very like calm, healing book. It's very hopeful, and it's about this veteran healing after the war. Yeah, and the power of art, if you will. I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And the next book is Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. You will not be surprised. It is mostly set on River Nile on a very glamorous boat. It's a Hercule Poirot mystery. He's on vacation in Egypt and he embarks to murder mysteries there. It's about this very rich girl, Lynette Ridgway, who is on a honeymoon with her husband, and she invites a bunch of people on this ship. And there's an uninvited guest there, her friend, or her ex-friend, because she stole her boyfriend, who is now her husband, and the girl starts appearing everywhere where they go on this honeymoon, and she is on the ship as well. Yeah, people die. Not much of summer vibes because of the murder, but the setting, definitely summer vibes. Okay, we have 2 literary fiction. We have Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jedrowski. This is set in Poland, and for me it has summery vibes because it starts off with this young guy who is at university. He has to go to this agricultural camp where he works in a village at this, what do you call it, farm? I don't know. He has to work physical labor, and it has really nice description of the countryside, of the Polish countryside in the 80s, because it is set in the 80s, so before the fall of communism. It's about this guy, young man, falling in love with another man, and they have different political views, so it's about that too. But yeah, I do remember there's another scene. I'm not sure if it's set during the summer, but they go to this summer house, those 2 guys and their friends, and I don't know, going to a summer house in my mind also, traveling, those kind of things, they immediately make me think of summer. So we have this one. And Tinman, I don't remember much about this one, but I do remember a lot of it is set in France. Is that true? Hold on. Okay, let me check. Yes, it is set in the south of France. This is the part I remember the most, so in my head, this is a book that you should read in the spring/summer. For me, I gave it 4 stars, so it's a book that didn't really stick in my mind. I don't remember much about it. It's about those 2 guys who fall in love. It's their love story. Yeah, south of France. That's all I have. Okay, then we have a few books that are set during spring or summer, but don't have this lightness of tone necessarily. But if you like reading the books during the similar season, I really like when I'm reading the book and it's it says it's oh, it's March, and it's March when I'm reading it, I'm just oh my god, I love it. Yeah, the rest of the books I'm going to talk about, they're set during warmer months, but then they're not necessarily happy books. So we have Summer by Edith Wharton. And you would think, because of the title and because of the cover, this is a perfect book for summer, what are you talking about? But it is Edith Wharton, so while this is mostly set during the summer, it's about this young girl who works at the library, and it is kind of a coming of age story. It is like a summer romance, but in a classic Edith Wharton fashion. Things don't go well. Yeah, the first half definitely had the vibes of a room of view kind of E.M. Forster. I'm having a good time, but at the end, you are not having a good time at the end, so just saying. Yeah, the rest of the books I don't have physically. So next would be Mrs. Dalloway. And Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf is set during one day, and it takes place in June. Yeah, it's set on a Wednesday, mid-June in 1923, and it kind of interweaves two plot lines together. So one plot line is about Mrs. Dalloway, who is out and about in the city trying to prepare for this party that she hosts in the evening, and another storyline is about this guy who is a war veteran and he is shell-shocked. It's about how the war affected him. It is written in this stream of consciousness style, which I don't love. I did like the themes of this book, and I can't really tell you what the themes are because I would spoil it. But yeah, because of the stream of consciousness style, which wasn't my cup of tea, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Then we have two books which are more like honorable mentions. I'm not quite sure if I should put them here, but we have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. At least half of this book, or about half of this book, is set during the summer. It starts off with this young girl. She is doing an internship in New York. I think it's at fashion magazine or like some kind of magazine for women. It is during the summer. There are some descriptions of like summer in New York in the, I don't know, 1960s, 1950s, I'm not quite sure. So I do remember it being set during the summer, at least half of the book, but it is about her being depressed, it is about her being suicidal and then ending up in a mental hospital, and this book is semi-autobiographical, so just throwing it out there. It is one of my favorite novels, as you might be able to tell because my channel name is Anya's Bell Jar, but yeah, summer vibes are not really there. And another book like this, and I wasn't sure why this book was giving me spring/summer vibes, but that book is We Are the Ants by Shaun David Hutchinson. And it's a young adult novel, which I really enjoyed actually. It's about this young boy who is in high school. It's kind of science fiction novel. It has science fiction vibes because it's about this young boy who thinks or is from time to time abducted by aliens, and to one point the aliens tell him that the world is going to end in like 100 years, and if he wants to stop the world ending he has to press this red button, and he's like, I don't know if I want to do that because he's depressed, his boyfriend died some time ago, he committed suicide, and yeah, he's just tired of living. It does have this like sarcastic lightness of tone, but it does deal with like very heavy topics. So, and okay, I wasn't sure why this was giving me summer vibes, and then I checked. It's actually set from September until January, but it's set in Florida, and there's no winter in Florida, so it was, in my head it was constantly warm, but that's because, yeah, of the environment. So I feel like we went from like most suitable to like least suitable. But oh well. That's all I wanted to say. I'm not quite sure how often I'm going to post when I start my full-time job, but yeah, I hope things work out in the end somehow. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.